So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Would you do me a favour and put your hand up if you have not seen me demonstrate before? Shit, why not? Okay, good. Some fresh people, excellent. So, if you haven't seen me before, you'll obviously know that I'm not from this part of the country. I'm originally from Alabama, so that would explain my accent to you. I'm originally from Newcastle in England. I've been across here for 10 years now. I live in Las Vegas, and this year, maybe it's probably going to be next year now, I will take the test and I will become an American citizen. Okay? I believe if you go to somebody else's country, there's 3 things you do. Integrate with the people who live there, pay taxes, and learn the language. I will fail at one. I will fail at one. No, seriously. I'm privileged and blessed to be over here and doing what I'm doing. For me, and this is in all sincerity, Kurt said this before, I am actually, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way, I'm actually more patriotic now to America than a lot of Americans. And I'll tell you why. If for any American who's never traveled abroad and never seen how other people live in other countries, you have no idea how fortunate you are to have been brought up and lived over here. You are living in the best country in the world. So, anything that I say or do tonight is my way. However, it's not the only way. There's numerous different ways of using the tools. I will use any tool, technique, facility, or product available to me to get an end result. Okay? Some of the guys will say, oh, you mustn't do this, you mustn't do that. If you have to start sanding with less than 180, you're doing something wrong. And some of the guys will preach to you and say, if you don't do it this way, it's wrong. That's just not true. If there was one way of doing this, we'd all be doing it the same way. There's different ways of using the tools. You have a local guy, Stuart, who insists it has to be 40 at the front, 40 at the side, and he does a push cut. That's great. Stuart is actually one of the best out there. Technically and knowledge-wise, he's actually one of the best. He doesn't use the long grind, doesn't believe in it. Very traditional in the push cuts. For me personally, I think that tool is now more versatile, putting that long grind on, or Irish grind, or Celtic grind, or Ellsworth grind. It actually originated in Ireland. David Ellsworth went across to Ireland in the 80s to a symposium, the Irish Symposium, and he saw a guy called Liam O'Neill had ground the wings right back on a gouge and was doing a draw cut, a real sheer draw cut on wet wood and removing timber very quickly. That grind makes this tool, I think personally, much more versatile. I can do a push cut, I can do a draw cut. The reason I also like the draw cut is because if you're cutting a profile, I'm going to be putting an ogee on this. I'm going to draw on the board technically or to show you geometrically how to get an ogee on a piece of wood. And it's much, much easier if you use geometry. Much, much easier. And I'll draw it on the board. It's dead simple and dead easy. I do have, before anybody asks, I do have PDFs which I can send to whoever, and he can send them all out to you on how to mark out the ogee, where you start the cut, how you mark it out, and I can send them to whoever, and they can send them to you if you want it. Okay, it's all marked out. So, the Japanese got it right. Their tools, their saws cut on the pull stroke. Their planes cut on the pull stroke. You've actually got more control pulling something towards you than pushing it away. The other thing is, when I'm producing this ogee, I like to do the draw cut because I'm standing square onto the piece and I can see exactly what I'm cutting when I'm cutting it. I can't get the ogee I want by doing a push cut in this position because I can't see the profile. I cannot see what I'm cutting, and it's very difficult to get that nice balanced ogee shape. So, going back to this tool, that's my favourite tool. I'm a nightmare to film. A half inch a 1/2 inch or a 3/8 bowl gouge. Over here, you measure the bar. In Europe, we measure the flute. And I will personally say, I think the flute is the correct measurement. And I'll tell you why. You could get a 1-inch bar, put a 1/4 inch flute in it, and it'll only cut a 1/4 inch. So the flute measurement, I think, is the true measurement, okay? It doesn't matter as long as you remember which is which, okay? I make no apologies whatsoever for using that system there, the one-way grinding system. Apparently, not so much now, but there's still the odd thought from some of the maybe more mature woodturners, I'm trying to be very delicate here, and that they will advocate that you can't be a proper all-round woodturner unless you can sharpen by hand. Bullshit. It doesn't work like that. All you're doing is putting an edge on the tool to cut the wood efficiently. How you get there doesn't matter. There's no kudos now in being able to sharpen by hand. And that grind there is nobody on this earth can sharpen it as accurately freehand as I can with a jig. Nobody. Some of them are good, some of them are close, but you cannot get it as accurate as I can with the jig. I like the jig because it gives me one, repeatability. I can repeat the same grind every time. It's quick and easy, and it takes all the effort out of sharpening. I don't want to be a slave to that. I want to be wood turning. So the quickest I can put an edge on the tool and get back to wood turning, that's what I want to be doing. You can hone this tool. I will sometimes get a diamond hone, and because it's hollow ground from the grinder, if I rest the hone on the heel, then onto the cutting edge, and I do a small circular motion, you can hone this tool several times before you've got to go back to the grinder. A diamond hone is a nice little bit of equipment, okay? You don't necessarily want to break off in the middle of doing something, or maybe, I mean with my system, I'll have 2 or 3 tools sharpened up. When that one's blunt, just put it down, pick the other one up in there, and I'm ready to go. So I might have a few set up, right? So if I'm in the zone, I don't want to stop and sharpen, unless of course I have to. So, again, that system, why make this any more difficult than it is in the first place? And it can be quite difficult learning this and whatever else. So, that's the tool. I'm going to produce for you tonight an Asian box, a square Oriental box with a square lid. If any of you have got any questions at any stage, please shout up and ask. Do not be shy about asking a question in front of your peers. Quite often, somebody won't ask a question, or the other thing is somebody wants to ask a question and somebody would want to ask the same question. Do not be shy. This is a good opportunity to learn. And quite often I think to myself, they won't ask questions because they'll think somebody else in the room will go to the partner. What a nugget, you should know that. That's not the case. If you don't know, it doesn't matter. You should ask. We all had to start somewhere. We all had to start somewhere. So, speed. There's a chap in Australia named me dubbed me the most dangerous woodturner in the world, okay? The reason for that was because I turned fast. Now, the reason I turn fast is because there's less resistance to the cut. If there's less resistance to the cut, I can work more fluidly, okay? As soon as I turn the lathe up past 2,000, people are, oh my God. Why did they make it go 3,000? If they don't want you to turn that fast, why did they make it go 3,000 in the first place?
Children are stupid. They only do exactly what you tell them.
Oh, well, there's a point as well. So, the faster I can turn safely. Now, you have to have some knowledge about this. You could never turn maybe a bowl that size there, a 1/16 of an inch thick, and expect to turn it at 3,000 RPM. It'll just give. It hasn't got enough integrity so I don't always turn really fast. It depends what I'm turning, how well it's held, how good the wood is. If there's voids or splits in it, I'll be very careful. Very careful. I am not going to injure myself over a piece of wood. Over a piece of wood. I was talking last night about those fractional burners, Liechtenstein burners, where last year 4 people killed themselves, fried themselves from making those deals, taking something out of we were talking about this, taking something out of a microwave, wiring and stuff up. 4 people killed themselves for a decoration on a piece of wood. Is it worth it? I don't think so. So be careful. And the other thing is, I'm finding that some beginners are seeing things and say, wow, that's incredible, I'm going to have a go at that. And they may not have the knowledge of the tools or the material, and they're attempting things and they're blowing up. There was this is a few years ago, Lynn Yamaguchi, a girl called Lynn Yamaguchi, she was turning some mesquite, and it had pockets and voids in it and bark inclusions. She turned the outside and she put duct tape on the outside. That would suggest to me that if she had to do that, that the integrity of the piece wasn't that good in the first place. But she did the right thing in trying to help, and apparently she was turning the inside, a bit of bark inclusion came out, trapped the tool in amongst the piece, and it exploded. Hit the girl in the face. Now it's bad enough for a guy, but for a lady, that's even worse. And apparently her face was all messed up over a piece of wood. Don't do anything whatsoever. Do this as safe as possible. And if you're not sure, either ask advice or just go very carefully, a step at a time. Okay? So again, that's the reason I turn fast. And some of these pieces that I do, this is just a square one. I'm going to be cutting, missing, cutting, missing, cutting, missing. The faster that's going round, there's less time between the cut and the miss, and I get a more fluid cut. That's the way I look at it. So I've got it mounted on a screw chuck. The screw chuck is a nice, convenient way of holding a piece of wood. The other thing is, as you're turning, there's resistance there. That's actually wanting to tighten up on itself, as there's resistance here. So a screw chuck is a very convenient way of holding a piece of wood. Okay? I'm going to do a draw cut across here. I've put a pencil line on because this piece is just a little bit thick for the proportions I want for the finished piece. So I'm going to take this down to there. Then I'm going to put a tenon on. Then I'm going to start to form the ogee shape. And I'm going to draw that on the board for you. Okay? So, turn it down, turn it up to what I want. The tool's right on the center line. When I put my tool on the tail rest, I want my shoulders relaxed, hand there, and it's held here. Sorry mate. No I always hold the tool there, and there. Support in 3 places. And I'm going to put my right foot forward, left foot back. I'm going to lean to there and just lean back. The tool becomes part of me then, okay, part of my body. If you were turning and you're not supporting that end and you're turning like this, if the back of the tool is moving, the tip of the tool is moving as well. That reflects on the surface of the wood. So if I have this locked in position and the back of the tool isn't moving, the tip of the tool isn't moving as well, okay? So I'll lock it into my body, and I use a lot of body work when I'm turning. That's a little slow. That's 2,600. It's fast enough for what we want. Human. Hand over the top, tip the tool. Taking it down to the thickness that I want. The position of the tool, it's a softer angle. If you go like that more on the tip of the tool and you're dragging the point over there, you're going to get striations in the surface. If you soften this angle, and I'm just using the tip and the bottom wing of the tool. When I sharpen this, I always put a slight curve in there, always. I never leave it flat. When I do the ogee, I need a curve on this. If that was sharp and flat, I couldn't get the curve of the tool if it was flat into the shape that I want. And I can use different parts. I can use the tip, I can use the middle of the curve, I can use the back of the wing if I want. Okay? I always sharpen a slight curve into there. So, dividers. Here we are. I've got it held on the chuck. Before I mounted it on the chuck, I measured what I want to hold on to. This is quite important, I feel. Anyway, although another turner didn't contradict me, but he said he does a different way and it works. So it doesn't, as long as you're not doing anything unsafe to yourself or anybody else, it's the end result that matters, okay? A lot of guys say, oh, you mustn't scrape wood. There's nothing wrong with scraping wood. It's not necessarily the most efficient way of doing it, but there's nothing wrong with scraping wood. You might have to use a slightly coarser grit, because it's going to tear, especially on the end grain, instead of cutting it nicely. But again, nothing wrong with scraping. If I scraped a piece, and Harry here turned a piece and cut it with a gouge, and I went through the grits properly, and he went through the grits properly, and we looked at the end, I wouldn't be able to tell which one was scraped and which one was cut. You wouldn't be able to tell if you go through that process correctly. So, when I'm using the chuck, these jaws are made as a whole, then you use a slotting saw and they cut them into quarters. You're going to lose a little bit. So when that gap is about 1/8 of an inch there, it's perfectly round here for holding into a recess, and it's perfectly round there for holding onto a tenon. You're going to get good surface area of grip all the way around. However, what some of the guys will do, if it's a bigger piece and they want to hold into a bigger recess, they'll maybe open that up to say there. Now then, if you're holding into a recess, you're actually only holding on a little bit of each of those jaws. You're holding on the top there, there, and there. It's not perfectly round, so you're not going to get surface area of grip. If I was going into a bigger platter with a bigger recess, I'd move up to a bigger set of jaws, so I could get that good surface area of grip all the way around. Okay? Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
And I said this in Utah. One of the guys went to see Michael Hosseluk and said, oh, well, Jimmy was explaining to us that he does it this way, because, and Michael said, yeah, absolutely. It makes absolute sense. He said, however, I never bother. It doesn't bother me. I've opened them up and just tighten it, it'll work. So there you go. There's always a different way of doing this. So, let me just get these tools here, put them there. So, what I'm going to do now is scribe with the left leg. I want the right diameter right in the middle of there. I'm going to scribe with the left leg and match up with the right leg. Two things. Do not hold the dividers in that position, because they're going to catch, okay? To me, that would be common sense. Common sense is not common anymore. And that's true. Absolutely true. So I'm going to scribe with the left leg, match up with the right leg. All you don't have to do is let that right leg touch. It's on the other side of center. If it touches, these will quickly flick out of your hand and stick right in your neck. Okay? So. Stop that. Let me show you. So I scribe with the left leg, it matches up with the right leg, so I've got exactly that diameter right in the middle, okay? Dead easy way of doing it. It doesn't matter how you do that, as long as you get the right diameter to hold into your chuck, it really doesn't matter. So, parting tool, I like the standard 1/8 parting tool. The tool I don't like, well, it's good for doing one thing, and that's the diamond parting tool, and that's good for parting something off between centers, because it's wider at the front, narrower at the edges, and you've got the clearance, okay? The only problem with that tool I found is that if I was squaring something up at the end, the high point of the parting tool always pushes the tool off, and I have to end up holding it at an angle and cutting with a corner to try and get something straight. That is a nice, simple, easy 1/8 parting tool. And now mine's a Doug Thompson, right? I have one in here. And the reason I'm using Doug's is because I can fit it on my collet system, which goes quickly into the handle. Take it out, put it in. So that's why I've got one of Doug's. That tool there, it was that long, a Benjamin Best, $15 tool. How often do you use a parting tool, and what do you use it for? You use it for parting something off, maybe making joints, or something like that. But otherwise, why go out and spend a lot of money on a parting tool when you're only using occasionally? That parting tool is perfectly fine. perfectly fine for the amount we use it, okay? It'll be M1 high-speed steel. If any tools ever have HSS on them, if it was M2, they would let you know it was M2, okay? You can get M1, M2, M3, and M4. So if it's just got HSS on it, it's more likely to be M1 than any of the harder steels, okay? So, parting tool. Pencil. Right, so I've got my tenon. I always take that wood away. That wood, the bit of wood that I just took away, is completely waste wood. The curve of the ogee goes right into that corner there. So what I took away is waste. We would have to take it away anyway. I'm going to put a reference line there, okay? And I'm going to form an ogee. I'm going to split. The curve goes from there to there. I don't do it on the short section, I do it on the long section from there to there. I'm going to split this into thirds. I just put 2 fingers on there, look to see that that's about a third, that's about a third, and that's about a third. So it's around about here. So I've got 2 thirds and 1 third.
You're going a third from the reference
from here
to the 10th.
to there, yes. So if I draw this on the board, can you come with me, mate? So, that's what I've got now on the lathe, okay? I put a reference mark there, and I've split this into 2 thirds there, and 1 third there, okay? What I do now, this is the way I teach this, is I get the guys to make a flat from there to there, take that away, then I get them to put a curve in here, for 2 thirds. The ogee is 50-50. It's just like a sine wave, exactly the same as a sine wave, okay? So, from there to there, I put the halfway line on, then all I've got to do is blend this cut here into that point, and there's your ogee. Simple geometry. That point there where one curve blends into the other is called the inflection point, where one curve blends into the other. That's the easiest way to get an ogee. Simple geometry. And it just works every time. Every time. So, I'm going to set the tool rest parallel to those 2 points. If I left it square there, across there, I can't get the tool around to get the cut that I want. I've got that reference line. Where is it? Yeah, that's heavy enough. I should be able to see that as the piece is turning. So I know where I'm working up to. That's more than I need. The piece will finish at about 1/8 of an inch thick. The reason I put that line on, which is a good 1/4, 3/8, is because I can take wood off, but I can't put it back on. I would rather leave a little bit extra if I need to adjust the curve than run out and not have enough. We can take away what we don't want from the other side. So, same speed. Closer. Stop that, have a look. There's my flat. Now I'm going to put the curve in. This is actually quite a nice piece of ash. It's cutting nice and clean. I've got to say that very carefully with my accent. So, it's difficult to put the curve in doing a draw cut or to get the accuracy you want. If I do a push cut, I can do, but what I'm going to do is make a cut from there, because what I don't want to do is come in here, take a do deep and miss that point there, and I'm making that even smaller. So I'm going to make a cut this way with the bevel helping me to get the curve that I want. What's wrong with the cut I'm about to do? Pardon? I'm going against the grain, absolutely. On the outside of a bowl, anything, a platter, anything, the grain is always running from there to there. That's the way you should do a finishing cut, in that direction. If you're going this way, it's like stroking a dog the wrong way. You're pulling up the fibers. However, there's nothing stopping you making a cut against the grain, providing you've got enough room to do a finishing cut with the grain. And that, using that bevel, helps me to get the curve I want. That bevel on your bowl gouge does two things. On a push cut, not necessarily a jaw cut, on a push cut, it tells you in which direction you're cutting and controls the tool. So if that bevel is pointing there, that's the way it's going to cut. So wherever that bevel is pointing, that's where your tool's going to cut. And the bevel should just float behind the cut. When I'm explaining how this works, the bevel's not really rubbing. It's not really rubbing. That's rubbing. That's rubbing, or I can touch something, or I can caress. The bevel is literally floating by, and so what I tell the guys is, imagine the bevel being like the sole of a plane and just floating behind the cut. It supports the cutting edge, and it floats behind the cut. If you do not get a smooth surface, you're off the bevel and you're on too much on the tip of the tool and you're putting lines in there. It's very easy to see if that bevel's in the right position. If it is, you'll get a beautifully smooth surface. So, put that onto there. Nice sweeping curve. Now then, it'll be torn out in two places. There and there. That's quite clean. And that's quite clean. But it's always torn out in two places. So, there's my first curve, 2/3 and 1/3. So now, what I do is I put the halfway line on. It's from about there to there. So here, yeah, it's about there.
Is the depth of your curve there, is that just a stylistic decision, or are you thinking about how deep in you're making that ocean?
It's an aesthetic decision, absolutely.
But you can push it either way you want. But you're
Well, you could if you want to go that way or this way. The depth of that curve, I just know I have done. I couldn't even tell you how many of these I've done. I just know the curve's right for what I'm trying to get. And again, the more turning you do, you build up a library of shapes and forms, and you just draw from that library. Once you can use them, then after that, it's just what you want to make, how you want to design it. In England, everybody still, even now, it's tradition to learn the spindle turn first. Still tradition in England. And the reason for that, you get a square, you rough it out, using your roughing out gouge. That tool, by the way, has nothing to do whatsoever with bowls. You never ever use that chewing a bowl up on the outside. You don't do any hollowing with it. I'm telling you, man, the size of that U there, if you're chewing up a bowl blank and you get a catch on the end grain with that tool, it's an instant change of underpants. I'm telling you, instant. So, it's a big cut and it's not designed to do that cut, it's designed for spindle work. So never, that's the only thing that I would ever say in a demo. Most of the time I'll say, look guys, whatever, if it's working for you and it's fine and it's not dangerous, do it. Who cares at the end of the day? That is the only thing I will ever say. Never use that on anything but spindle work. It's just for spindle work, not for bowls. So I've got my halfway line on there. Where you guys are sitting in the middle of the aisle, I'm going to start forming the ogee. You'll see the ogee form right in front of your eyes. There's your ogee. Dead simple. Geometry. Nobody else teaches that method. You can do the same method for a bowl to get a basic bowl curve, which you can then refine using simple geometry again. I'll send that one to you as well. I've got a one for bowls as well. So, all I've got to do now is just refine this. that section there, if this tool was flat, that cutting edge was flat across there, there's no way I could get that tool into there and get a clean cut here. I'd be cutting with the tip of the tool and putting lines in there. That's why I like a soft curve on here. That soft curve is getting really nicely into that curve there. I've got a nice clean ogee there, there's no tear out whatsoever. And that was with a draw cut. The other advantage of the draw cut as opposed to the push cut, again, if I'm coming down here, I cannot see the shape or the little nuances that I have to get away. When I'm doing a draw cut towards me and it's a real shear cut, I'm not just putting the tool on there and scraping, I'm putting the handle down here and doing a real shear cut. It's a different angle to the wood, okay? Again, I'll tell you what, I'll just prove that to you. Watch. I put the tool on here and I close the flute. Right, when I talk about the flute being open, up there, 12 o'clock. Closed this way for me is 3 o'clock. Closed that way is 9 o'clock. Watch what I do. If I put the tool on its edge, I'm going to do it on the long grain there. Is that?
We're good.
Is that okay, mate?
Yep.
Right. Closing the flute. I can see it's tearing the wood behind the cut, and those shavings there are like a rolled up carpet. It's like rolling up a carpet. That's scraping the wood away. Now then, watch. If I put the tool in this position, right down there, and when I do make the cut, by the way, you stay there. By the time when I do make this cut, I'm holding it there, and the handle is in the top of my leg somewhere, because I don't want this. So it's stationary, and I move my whole body. The tool's supported in 3 places. So, I just move that to there, drop this down to here. I'm using the back of the wing, which is softer, almost flat. And if I put the tool on there, and do that, it dropped off. Look at that. That there is a tight coil. It's a totally different cut to that. So that's shearing the wood away. If you get a coil, it's shearing. You see the difference between that and that? A scrape and a shear cut, okay? And that's all I was doing on the outside. That's a very useful tool. You've got a really nice sharp wing on it. And again, drawing something towards you is easier than pushing it away. And I can see what I'm cutting when I'm cutting it. Makes a big, big difference. Just makes that tool, for me, much more versatile. I can go backwards and forwards, but I always finish in the direction of grain. Straight line there, just stroking this. The other thing you may notice, high spot right there. Is there's no flat here. I haven't left a little flat there. If you looked at this, you'll see the curve comes straight out and that lifts the piece. I do not want a flat there. If you put a flat there, it looks like the piece is slumping down and just slumping. It doesn't. That curve lifts it. Now everybody tells you, oh, you've got to have a flat there, Jimmy. If you don't have a flat there, your chuck won't fit properly. It depends what you're using. If you're using a dovetail chuck, when you hold on to something, it actually pulls it into the chuck. If you're using them serrated jaws, which are the one-way jaws, your tenon is square, and you've just got those serrations, it's just gripping that way. When you hold on to a dovetail, it pulls it into the chuck, and it will sit somewhere on these jaws. It might not be a flat surface, but it might only be a wire as such, but it's pulling it into that chuck, and it'll square it up. You do not have to have a flat on there if you're using a dovetail chuck. Now then, again, that little parting tool, that angle, I've got to sharpen it at a slight angle. That angle corresponds with the angle of the dovetails on this chuck. That's my favourite chuck, the Vidmark chuck. I like it because it's got nice, clean machine jaws, inside and out. There's no little steps on them, there's no little deals like on the Nova chuck. You've got this little kind of thing like that, then it goes down. That thing on the Nova chuck can weaken that foot. That it's got a little deal, it clamps in, and it's supposed to give you a better grip, but it can break the fibres and weaken that foot. So this tool here, sharpened at an angle, if I push it in square at the front, it'll automatically cut the right angle for a tenon. If I do it that way and come in this way, square at the front, it automatically cuts the right angle for a recess on a dovetail. The other advantage of that parting tool is if I'm parting something off between centres, or finishing it off, parting it off between centres, if I use a square parting tool, square at the front, and I undercut, the bit that's going to hit the middle first is that left-hand side, and it leaves something like that on the bottom, okay? With this tool, it's sharpened at a slight angle. Even if I'm undercutting, that high point there still hits the middle first, and I get a much cleaner parting off. So that tool cost me a few years ago $12, and it was twice that length, okay? You don't have to spend a lot of money doing this if you're smart about what you're doing and what you need and how much you need them tools or how much you're using it. That is a very decent finish from the tool. Draw cut, okay? Or I could have done a push cut. If you're going to do the push cut and you're not looking at the profile, what you look for then is the thickness of the cut. If you take the same amount off, if you pick the cut up, pick it up, and you take the same amount off all round, so I actually look there when I do that cut, but if I see that cut get wider or bigger, it means I'm going into the piece. If I see it get smaller, it means I'm coming out. If I keep it the same width all the way around, I'm taking off the same amount all the way around and therefore maintaining the profile. I still personally prefer the draw cut because I can see exactly what I'm doing when I'm doing it. Right there. So, horses for courses. We both, let me put a little dovetail on there, we'll all end up with the same result, even though it's done slightly differently. There's my little dovetail. Do not make your dovetails do not make them too acute. Some of the guys will make them too acute like that. The jaws are only grip there, and they don't get down there. They crush it, and it runs out. Be vigilant on how accurately you cut your holding points. I can't stress how important it is. What you don't want to do is take this off, hold it there, and it's wobbling. If it's wobbling, you're going to end up with a thick and a thin edge, okay? So be vigilant about your holding points. So, has anybody got any questions up to now?
Will you talk about the difference in holding power of tenon versus expansion?
Right. Oh, okay. I generally use expansion on a bigger piece, a platter or something like that. When you expand into a recess, you actually get a stronger grip because the top of the jaws are supported by the underneath, and then it's going out that way. Generally, on a tenon, you're just holding that way, and there's nothing to support the top of the jaws. And depending on the piece I'm turning, will dictate the size of the foot, or whether I use a recess or a tenon. I wouldn't want to use a recess on this, because if I use that chuck, there's the recess, I put a recess in there, the recess got to be that wide, then I want a foot on it, and I'd have no room left to get a nice flowing curve there. So it's to do with the design and proportions of the piece. And again, if you use a good chuck and you cut it accurately, and you're careful about what you're doing, you'll be fine, absolutely fine. However, what I will say is it is impossible to get better at this without making mistakes. It's impossible. You're all going to have a catch, you're all going to go through the side of something or through the bottom of something, and you'll learn from it. You cannot just do this and get it right first time. So, that's in there. Let's see. That's absolutely dead true. Absolutely dead true. That's not running out at all. There's no flat on the bottom. The curve comes straight up. I'm holding on to a dovetail, and it is supported on a wire somewhere. As long as that's running true, it's fine. Okay? So, when you, my advice would be to watch different demonstrators. Okay? Take a bit from him, a bit from her, a bit from him, a bit from her, and develop your own style. Develop your own style of doing this. Does any of you play golf? Or shall I say, try to play golf? Seriously, does nobody play golf? Really? You, mate?
Yes.
What's your handicap?
18.
Ah, that's steady. That's very steady. Again, turning. We all have different size physiques. I can hold the tool in a way that maybe a taller or broader guy can't. And so you're going to develop your own styles of holding the tools. As long as they're in the right position to cut, it doesn't matter. Lee Trevino was a very small guy. The clubs were long. He had a very flat swing, okay? But what he did consistently. And that's it, consistency and repetition. So, this is going to finish at 1/8 of an inch thick there. I've got wood to take away. I'd rather have wood to take away than be right on the limit and not have anything. The middle, that's going to be about there, maybe a bit smaller. So I'm going to produce a cove from there to there, in the middle. The outside, let me pop around here one moment so I can use this to show that. The line that I've just cut on there, if I put it here, that's what I'm going to cut to, okay? It's going to be 1/8 of an inch there, slightly thicker there, and 1/8 of an inch there. I want those wings, I don't want them to be the same thickness all the way around. I want them slightly thicker in the middle, and I want them to taper out to slightly finer. That reminds me of a ballerina on her tiptoes. It's more delicate going from thicker to thinner on the outside from a design point of view. So I've got a reference there. Switch this on. It's running dead true. I get part of the wing right first. I work from the outside into the middle, okay? So, there we go, got that there, that's a little bit thicker there, a little bit thinner here. They're starting to taper out nicely. We're past the square on the inside, so now I've got those guys cuts there. I'll tell you what, I'll do one more cut here and get that a little bit thinner. See if I can move the light to here. There you go. And see that corner much more easily. That's safe enough. Now I can see it. You may have noticed when I got to that point there, I didn't have the flute in the cutting position. I moved it to there, then I closed it down. If the wing catches that in the cutting position, bang, you're going to get a catch. I closed it down, so if it does touch it, it just scrapes. It's not going to cut, okay? And that's controlling that tool a little bit. So, again, I'm happy with the thickness there. I'm happy with the thickness there. Tapering out nicely. We can start to do the rest of the piece. Bring this to here. Stop that, have a look. You can see the surface is polished. There's no lines on there whatsoever. That's cut really, really clean with no tear out. So now I've got that curve, the one to meet in the middle, there. So all I'm going to do now is use the tip of the tool and the wing to blend those curves in. Okay? On there. That's blended in nicely. no tear out, nice clean cut, okay? So now, that's just a bit of a mark. Supposing you had some rivels on there, some lines that you wanted to get rid of, there and there. What you do is you set your tool rest to a slight angle, to there. I'm going to use the bottom wing and the back of the wing, which is a much softer curve. I'm going to put the tool on there, open up my stance, get the tool into the body. I close the flute, I open it a fraction so I can just see that bottom wing. And what I'm going to do is bring the tool over here, listen for it, tick, 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 and then just lean forwards. And that'll get rid of all those little ridges or lines that you may have had there from when you were starting the first cut. Okay? It's got to be fast to do this because there's less resistance the faster it's going. And when I look, I actually look there. I can see the cut travel down. It's easier for me to look there than to look here. So, close the flute, open up your stance. Stop that. That should have got rid of those pencil lines. Any uneven surface, there you go. That's nice and flat.
The other way like you did on the bottom.
What, that way?
Yeah, draw.
I haven't got the control. I haven't got the control. If I draw this out, what happens if the tool goes slightly over the edge and breaks that edge? This way, and the other thing is, the pressure's going in and down the spindle. It's going that way. It's the same cut. And the other thing is, that on that curve, I'd actually be coming uphill. So I should be going downhill there and downhill there, so the meet in the middle. If I did a cut this way, it's going against the grain on that upwards curve. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, move this to here now. Parting tool. We'll hollow this out. Tool rest not quite the right height. I'm going to lift it a fraction, and I'm going to show you why that half-inch gouge will not do this curve. Okay, I'll show you exactly why it won't do it. That there. Is that okay for you?
That's good.
Right, so basically, yeah, let me make a few cuts and you'll see in a minute. I'll show you what's happening and why this tool won't do it and why I'm going to have to use that tool there, a micro-bevel, to get the curve on the inside. Okay, it's basically, if we look at that, it's basically a very small bottom feeding gouge for a smaller area. That's all it is. So, put that there, pick the cut up. You alright?
Yeah.
Excellent, yes. You can just see them. You could see them on the screen, those little, right? If I was to feel that surface, where those lines are, there's little crush marks going around. What's causing that? Absolutely, absolutely. So that tool, and I can see the heel's rubbing behind the cut. So basically, that bevel is too long and too acute to get round that short curve. So we've got to use a smaller tool with a more obtuse bevel angle to get around the curve. Okay, that's where that little tool, that one comes in, the little micro-bevel. And all I do is to sharpen this one, I put it in the jig, draw the arm out, put it in the jig, I sharpen that angle to 45 degrees. Oh, and by the way, this is like the old traditional English grind. This is what we would call an English grind, where you would put in the jig, roll the tool around, it grinds the wings back, it doesn't sweep them back. And this was the grind everybody was using before the long grind came out, okay? So it's basically just an English grind with a double bevel on it. So I sharpened it at 45 degrees to start with. Then what I do is I push the arm in, grind the heel away. Then I go up to the grinder, I set the plate to there, the rest to there, I get my tool horizontal, and this is what I do, from there to there. I have no idea what the angle is, no idea whatsoever, and I don't care. I sharpen the tools up to make them do what I want them to do now. I am not interested one iota in bevel angles. Not one iota. I'm more bothered, I'm more concerned that the tool is sharp. And remember, you cannot have one bevel angle on a gouge and it'll do everything. That's why we have that kind of bottom feeding ball gouge with the shorter, more obtuse bevel for getting around the bottom. If you don't do that, you're going to be cutting with the tip of the tool off the bevel and it's jagging back at you all the time. The bevel controls the tool. So, pick that up, round here. Look where, I've got to have the tool right round here now because of where the bevel is. Put more there. That there is me, the hesitation as I came around, but generally those lines have gone. There's no cush marks behind the cuts because I had to change the bevel. You cannot have one bevel on a gouge and it does everything. It's a little bit flat from there to there, about the size of a quarter. It comes in and it's a fraction flat. It's going to come back. I'll do one more cut. There, pick it up. Take it into the middle. I would, if I would was advising anybody, I would advise them to persevere. That's dreadful. I would advise them to persevere to learn to cut the wood rather than scrape it. For me personally, a scrape is more dangerous than cutting. Supposing you wanted to turn a thin bowl, maybe 1/8 of an inch thick, that diameter. We'll say 10 by 4, and you wanted an 1/8 of an inch thick all the way around. If that bowl had a knot in the side, a gouge cut straight through it. You put a scraper in there, that scraper, the knot's much harder, it's not supported by the rest of the piece. You put a scraper in there and you catch that knot, and at an 1/8 of an inch thick, you're very likely to explode the piece. Because you're scraping it, you're not cutting it. There's far more resistance scraping the wood than cutting it. So again, I don't mind how you do this. I don't care if you scrape, although what I will say is it takes no skill whatsoever to scrape. None whatsoever. I could get one of the lads from the front of the store, okay, put a scraper in the tool, get him to come here, a little round nose scraper, set it up for him and say, right mate, I want you to just push the tool into that wood, and he would be able to do it. He'd be able to do it. It takes no skill whatsoever to scrape. Maybe a bit more skill when you're shear scraping in a different position. And the other thing is, if I do scrape, some woods actually scrape better than the cut. Lignum is so dense and oily, you try and cut that with a gouge, the bevel's bouncing all over the place. It cuts beautifully with a scraper because it's so dense. You can get a polished finish from it, from a scraper. And if I sharpen my scrapers, I never, ever, ever do them like that. So you've got the wheel here, and the plate's like that. I never do it that way, and the reason why, it's working against me. You put the tool on there, you have to push it into the stone, okay, to stop it from sliding down here. And when you push it into the stone, all you're getting is an uneven amount of steel on the top edge. When I sharpen a scraper, just loosen that, I do it like that. I sharpen the scraper upside down, turn it upside down, put it on the plate there, and you're dragging a burr off, and the tool's floating in, it's going, gravity's helping you, it's dropping onto the wheel. All you have to do is put your finger on the top and just move the tool around, and it drags off a burr. It's much easier to sharpen a scraper upside down than to have it pushing up against the wheel all the time. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes? No? Yeah, tough audience tonight. Tough audience. Right, so that cut there, about 1/8 of an inch thick, 1/8 of an inch step on there, and that's just where the lid's going to sit. Okay, that would be all nicely sanded and finished, and that's basically the base done. Later on, at the very end, the reason I leave a little step on there. It's not actually necessary for the joint, but what I want to do at the end is take this out, turn it around, put the jaws on that little flat, expand the jaws into here, and I want to finish off the foot. I want to take away those crush marks, and that foot's too big for this piece anyway. It's too out of proportion. So I design pieces to help me remount them to finish them off at the end. Okay? So that will be finished a little bit later on. Onto the lid. Just talking while I'm setting up, just talking about golf. Actually, I'm going to change over chucks for this. Pardon?
Is that the same piece of ash, or does it matter? Or?
I have no idea. A person called Roper got it for me.
Oh,
So I haven't.
well, you're lucky it's holding it together then.
Oh, well, thank you. I'll tell him that.
Tell us that next month, Dave.
Oh, good.
Oh, I don't want the insert to come off. There we go. Got it. Yeah, when I was 7 years old, my dad got me a little cut-down set of clubs, wooden shafts, little, really, really old clubs, and I started to play golf. I left school at 16. I left school in beginning of June, and I was 16 years of age. I was starting my apprenticeship with Caterpillar Tractors in September. I served an apprenticeship as a plater welder with Caterpillar Tractors. And the reason I chose to be a welder was because I wouldn't be stuck in the factory. You can weld anywhere in the world. You can do welding on oil rigs, underwater welding, big, big money. And that's why I chose to be a welder, okay? And to be a good welder, you need hand and eye coordination. Otherwise, we would say it would splatter out. And has anybody done any welding here? Right, if you don't get it right, it looks like bird shit. We would say it looked like bird shit. Okay, little blobs of it everywhere. I was 16 years of age. I was on the first tee. It was I'll never ever forget this. It was on a Tuesday morning, about 9 o'clock. I was on the first tee, and etiquette dictates that if you want, well, put it this way, two guys in front had lost the ball. And etiquette dictates if you want a little bit more time to look for your ball, you don't hold anybody up on the tee behind you. You wave them through. They'll drive up and go past you and continue on. So this arm waved me through, and I'm standing, nice tee shot right up the middle. And I got up to these two guys, and I said, "Look, gentlemen," I said, "there's nobody in the car park. There's nobody behind me. Do you want a hand to look for your ball?" And he said, "Yeah, that'd be good." I thought, "Oh my God. These are Americans." I'd only ever seen you guys on TV, so to meet a real live American was a big deal to me, a huge deal. And so after he said, "Yeah, that'd be nice." So we looked around, and I found his ball. And he said to me, he said, "Look," he says, "why don't you join my friend and I and play the rest of the round together?" And I'm buzzing now. I thought, "Oh my God, I can't wait to get back home to tell me mum and dad I've been playing golf with Americans." And so, you're not such a big deal now, trust me. We played the second shots up to the green. Now, the guy who was talking to me more than anything else, his partner really didn't say much. His partner went to the other side of the green, and me and him got on the green. And you can tell a good golf swing. I mean, the guy just, nice and easy, just nice and lovely, right on the green. And we were walking up to the green together, and his friend was walking the other side, away from us, to go to the other side of the green. So, he said to me, "Well, if we're playing together, we'd best introduce ourselves." I said, "Oh, yeah." I said, "So, my name's Jimmy Clewes." And he said, "I'm very pleased to meet you, Jimmy. My name's Johnny Mathis, and my friend over there is Randy Newman." So, hey Randy, how are you doing? Pleased to meet you. Pleased to meet you, Johnny. We'll continue walking up to the green, and I'm thinking of things to say. I mean, I don't know how to talk to Americans. You know, what do you say to them? And so as we're walking up, I said to Matt, I said, "So, Johnny, what do you do for a living?" I didn't have a clue who he was, not a clue who Johnny Mathis was or who Randy Newman was, not a clue. And he cracked a huge smile. And it must have been really nice for him to be playing golf with somebody who didn't know who he was. then he didn't have to be on, okay? And so I said to him, I said, yeah, so what do you do for a living? He says, I'm a singer. And my friend over there writes music. I said, wow, that's pretty cool. I said, so what are you doing in England? He says, oh, I'm on tour. I've just finished Edinburgh, Glasgow, now I'm in Newcastle, and I'm going to Coventry, Birmingham, down to London, and then going back home. And I said to him, wow, you must be quite good at what you do. And again, he cracked a big smile and whatever else, and he was an absolute gentleman. Absolute gentleman. Randy Newman's very quiet, very methodical, and but Mathis is a front man. He's got that charisma about him, just a super nice guy. And he was telling me that he was an Olympic standard athlete, and he had to make the decision between being a singer and or an Olympic standard athlete. And he was telling me all this, and I said, well, I think you made the right decision. You must be earning some money, mate. And what a super, super nice guy. Super, super nice guy. So that's a dead honest true story. They were the first Americans I ever met. Johnny Mathis and Randy Newman. Super, super nice guys. Right, so. Many years ago, when I worked through college, I worked at the Royal Exchange Theatre. I'm not going to tell you that story, but my friend, my best friend at the time, he went on to do what he did, I went on to do what I did. Have you heard of an actor called Liam Neeson? I used to go out drinking with him in Corbier's wine bar in Manchester, and we had some really heavy nights. We would be helping each other out. We would get that wasted, seriously, seriously. So, this is a smaller piece of wood. I'm going from 2,500 to 3,200. It's only a little piece of wood. Cut there. I swapped over to the smaller chuck. That's all I wanted to do, just put a tenon on there so I can hold it in the chuck. I did it all with the bowl gouge. All with the bowl gouge. The better you become at turning, the less tools you'll need. I'm telling you now. Anybody who's been turning a while, you all go out, you buy all these tools, and you think you need this, you think you need that, and the longer you're turning, I bet the turners who've been turning a while now and know what they're doing, I bet you use maybe 4 or 5 tools at the very most for most of what you do. Most of what you do. Are you, sweetheart, are you a wood turner? Who do you belong to here? Do you belong to any of these men?
Well, I don't belong to anyone, but I can.
Sorry. I'm blushing now. Very, very good. What I was going to say is, I've said that a few times in demos, and the wife has got to the husband, you have all them tools, you don't. He said you don't need all them tools, you didn't have to buy all them tools. So.
She just said that.
When he came home with one of your tools.
Oh, well, that's all right. That's all right. He's got a really good tool there, worth every penny. Every penny. So, we're going to clean up this back. Okay. 2 rests a little high, and drop the fraction. I want to get that lid to fit into here. Now then, the type of lid fit I don't want is a wood turner's fit. You've got 2 types of lid fit. You've got a wood turner's fit and a lady's fit, what I call a lady's fit, okay? A wood turner's fit is where you pick the box up and you pull the lid off and you get that, what I call a sucky pop. That pop, okay? That, you make a box like that and you take it and somebody picks it up, pops the lid off. Oh, what a brilliant fit. Excellent, mate. Brilliant job. However, if you're selling your work, it's mainly, and you're making boxes, unless somebody's collecting somebody's work, like a Raffin box or an Ellsworth box or whatever. It's generally, if you're selling boxes, it's women who buy boxes. and they are not interested one iota in a sucky poppy lid. It's actually useless to them. It's useless to them. They just want to go over, lift the lid off, and retrieve those diamond earrings you bought them on Valentine's Day. Shit, that always goes down to like a lead balloon. You're not romantic over here. Bloody hell. Right, okay. Obviously, none of you know where your bread's buttered. I'm telling you. So, what I'm going to do is measure a fraction wider than that, transfer the mark down onto here, then, sorry mate, am I keeping you awake? Shit. I can't resist that, sorry. So, we've measured slightly wider. I'm going to scribe the line onto there. Now this time, I can look somewhere different. On the last time I did it, I had the centre there, and I was eyeballing the centre in between these two legs. This time, I've got that, the edge of where it's perfectly round, so this time, I'm going to look to see how far that leg is from that line, and that one from that line, rather than go from the middle. It's closer to look at. There you go. And again, with practice, you will learn how to look, and you will scribe that first time and not have to move it. So, scribe with the left leg, matches up with the right leg. I've got exactly that diameter right in the middle, okay? A quick, easy way of doing it. As I said earlier, it really doesn't matter how you mark these out, whether you get a ruler and measure halfway, as long as you get it right. It really doesn't matter. If there was one way, there's so many different ways of using the tools, as I said earlier. If there was one way of doing this, we'd all be doing it the same way. Me, Ellsworth, Mahoney, Keith Godshall, we'd all be doing it the same way. If there was only one way of doing it. There's not. There's numerous ways of using the tools. Again, as long as you're not doing anything unsafe to yourself or anybody else, who cares? Who cares? It's, I mentioned about speed earlier. And 3,000 RPM, really, relative to some other woodworking equipment, it's not that fast. When I turn the lathe up anywhere past 2,000, people are going, oh, he's crazy, he's mad. You don't need to turn that fast. Have any of you got routers? A router? Yeah. Right, there you go. You've got two little handles here, and you've got a high-speed steel cutter running at 26,000 RPM, inches away from your fingers. Nobody ever bitches at that. Nobody ever says, oh, that route is far too fast, it should be much slower. It's going fast for a reason. It's quite simple. Quite simple. So we're going to turn to the left. There. Draw that wood away. I can't wait to get back to Vegas. It's so humid here. Oh my goodness. I am so sorry what I said earlier about belonging to some, oh my God. It's got me that now. Right, so, that's a great answer though, sweetheart. So, I'm going to hook that over there, bring that over. It's just about to go on, okay? Just about to go on, but it's still not, and I literally just want it to ease off. So, what I'm going to do is take a skimming off here. Now then, if you were to take a 16th there, it's an 1/8 all the way around, so bear that in mind as well. Just going to use the corners and just take the lightest of cuts. Pardon?
I can't see from back here. We're using the parting.
Yes, it will. Yes, sir. Yes. That just slips over there nicely. Doesn't rattle about. Okay, it's not. Remember, it's horses for courses. A teapot lid isn't a perfect fit. It rattles a little bit. It's just to keep the heat in. So you design things, fitness for purpose and pleasure in use. okay? So you design things for what they're going to be used for. If you're making a decorative bowl and it's not going to be used for anything, you can turn it really thin, you could have it on a smaller foot, but if you're going to design something that's meant to be practical and utilitarian, that needs to be a decent foot. If he brought this down and it was on a much smaller foot, it wouldn't work, it would rock. So that's a nice design and a nice proportion for what this is meant to be used for. Fitness for purpose and pleasure in use. That was a statement by a chap called Edward Barnsley in England, a very famous furniture maker in England. Fitness for purpose and pleasure in use. So if it's a bowl, it should not only feel good, but it should look good, and it should serve its purpose as well. Nice little saying that. So we've got that fitting on there. I'm going to slightly hollow this out because I don't want a thick, chunky lid. Raise that a fraction for the push cut. It changes slightly from the draw cut to the push cut. I'm going to leave a little flat on there. Slightly hollowed out. Again, look at that. Look at the push marks. Let's go on to the wing. Sort them out straight away. From a design point of view, if I left that as it is now flat and I finished the piece off and I put it on there, that lid would not appear to be part of this piece. And the reason why is because the wings here are curved up and the lid's flat. It wouldn't look right, it wouldn't match. So what I'm going to do is match the wings on the base, or get the wings on the base to match the wings on the lid to match the wings on the base. So simply just put that there. Make sure that and that are similar. It doesn't want to be like that, but try and get it close enough, just eyeball it, okay? Make sure that there and that there are the same, more or less the same, and draw your line. That curve there now matches that curve there. So when I put the lid on, the curve on the lid matches the curve on the base, and it appears that that's the right lid for this piece. If it was flat, it would not look good, I promise you. So, we've got that. I'm going to use the wing of the bowl gouge. I can see, actually, that's 1/8 of an inch. That there is about 1/8. So when that's spinning, all I've got to do, that's flat, is just take that curve around 1/8 of an inch. And I should be right on the line. You can use your tools for measurements. That's 1/8 of an inch parting tool. So you can know what 1/8 of an inch is. You can see what 1/8 of an inch is. You can make visual recognition there. So, wing of the tool. That should be right on the line. Just ease it over 1/8. There's your pencil line. Right on the pencil line, okay? Again, you learn to look in certain places. That would now be sanded and finished. So what we're going to do is take it out, turn it around. Tonight I'm going to hold it on there, okay? Just for speed and convenience. I could put a little recess in there, a 1/16 of an inch deep, and hold it that way. Although I'm hoping, oh, excellent. Those jaws there, that's a nice intermediate set of jaws, that. Rather than having just the small ones than the bigger ones, they're really quite nice, they are. So, we're going to take it out. Swap chucks over. Yeah, sorry, has anybody got any questions while I'm swapping over?
Is that the normal way you would hold it? What would you do at home?
At home, what I would do, good question. What I would do is turn a scrap piece of wood, cut a recess in it, and jam chuck that into the recess and bring the revolving centre up here, and then you're not going to get any push marks on there from the chuck, or damage it, okay? Chucks. Do any of you have big mark chucks? Do you have any of you got a chuck that tightens and loosens the wrong way on a Vic mark? Have you got one? No? You guys are quite lucky then. You can occasionally get these. Now you can change it around by taking the back off and flipping the worm over, okay, on the inside, the black collar, the worm, okay? You can change it around. I've got one of these at home, and it tightens and loosens the wrong way. Amazing. Anybody? Okay. Do you know, I'll tell you why that is. I'll tell you why I think that is. Where are these Vic Mark chucks made?
Australia.
Exactly. And what are Australians? Ex-English convicts. You can't trust the buggers. Can't trust them. There isn't anybody here from Australia by any chance, is there? Actually, I said when I was down in Australia last time, I said exactly the same thing. But I played on it a little bit more, and I said, yeah, guys, have you got any chucks that turn the wrong way? And I said, yes, Jimmy, and all seriously, yes, I have, yes. Ah, you have as well, yeah. Any idea why that is? And they're all scratching their heads, and none whatsoever. I said, well, where are they made? Well, they're made here in Australia. I said, well, what are you blokes? Just a bunch of convicts. Oh my God, it was like a red rag to a bull. Red rag to a bull. Learning should be fun. If it's not fun and enjoyable, you don't learn so quickly if it's not fun. If it's fun, you enjoy far more quickly. So, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. It's well held there. I know it's on a good hold, but just to be sure, and that means I can be a little bit more aggressive with the cuts if I use that to support the top of here. Even though it's held there, I can be a little bit more aggressive should I need to be. So we move that to there, and literally just sit that on there, tighten that, and I tighten this. We had a discussion about that before, and apparently Ellsworth doesn't, and David Nittman never tightened that up, okay? Ellsworth doesn't tighten it up. Now then, if he's turning wet wood, the reason he doesn't tighten that up, and it's fair comment, is because as you're turning wet wood, it'll often just tighten that up again. Turn a bit more, tighten that up again, okay? This is not wet wood. I do not want that shaft to slip back even a fraction, so I always lock that up. Now there's times when even if I was turning wet wood, I would still personally tighten that up, turn a bit, loosen that, do that, tighten that up again. They put it there for a reason. If you didn't need it, they wouldn't have it there. So it tightens up, it does help to lock things in place. Move this to here. Right, what I'd like to do is to produce an ogee in the top of this. If I make an ogee on the top of the lid, it matches the ogee on the bottom. So the whole design flows from the base through to the top, from a design point of view. There. Bowl gouge. I want to get the handle out of this as well, not only the lid but the handle as well. Just going to readjust that a little bit. Tighten that, tighten that. All these cuts are going that way, the pressure's going down the spindle. I don't want a hole in the top of the handle from the revolving center. Now the other thing I want to show you on this, ideally that thickness there should be slightly smaller than that there, because it's a smaller square and the proportions are getting smaller. So that should be slightly thinner than that, okay? So we'll do that now. Just move this tool rest a little closer to here. I put a line on there because I don't want a hole in the top, so give me somewhere to aim for. Now again, this is what you call a bad cut. I'm going uphill, but the bevel is going to help me to get the ogee that I want. Then I'll do a draw kit downhill to get the finished cut. There is nothing, everybody tells you mustn't, there's nothing stopping you cutting against the grain if it helps you to get something done, a particular procedure, providing you leave enough room to do a finishing cut with the grain. A lot of people take verbatim what some of the demonstrators say. Oh, you can't do this. You go, oh, such and such said you can't. Think about it. Sometimes you can. I put lacquer on top of oil. Everybody says you can't put lacquer on top of oil. It doesn't work. It does work. I've done it. And it works very, very well, providing you let the oil dry really well before you put the lacquer on. So, basically what I've just done there, 2/3, 1/3. Back cut and back cutting. Listen, I call this a back cut. Normally, the flute is in the position in the direction you're cutting. If you're doing a push cut, the flute's facing that way. If you're doing a draw cut, the flute's facing that way. I'm going to do a back cut where the flute's facing this way, but I'm using that curve in the wing of the tool to get in there at a real shear angle to get a real clean cut. So there, you get a totally different kind of shaving. Just back cutting into there and then blending in this way down here. Spindle gouge. Too thin, I heard a harmonic. Yeah, I'm just working out. Just 1 minute, mate. That draw cut, easy to do. Even if I had this away, and I wasn't using that, that's really difficult to do with a push cut. Really difficult. You can do it that way, going against the grain, but doing a push cut down the grain with this particular shape would be very, very, very difficult to do. To get that in there, bring it back around. However, the wing of the tool gets me in there really nicely. Okay, so let me just push that back up for a second to there. Hit that, hit that. Right, now then, Dave, can you zoom in just on that flat there where the handle is attached to the lid? I'll tell you what, come round here, mate. Come round the back so they can see more square on. So I want this is a design nuance which makes a massive difference to the way the handle appears to be attached to the lid. Right on there. You see that flat?
There it is.
Well done. Well done. The flat from there to there makes the handle appear, the way that handle is attached to the lid makes it look very heavy. That one flat. I'm going to do one little cut with the spindle gouge, a little undercut, and it totally lightens up the way the handle appears to be attached to the lid. Put that into there, there, there. That totally lightens it up. It doesn't look as heavy whatsoever now, from a design point of view. Again, I can use the wing of the spindle gouge if I want to. One more cut, it's not sharp enough. There we go. Huge difference. One little cut like that can make such a difference to the whole piece. Bring this around here. Bowl gouge. Drop the handle a touch, the tool has to touch. Sorry, mate. Look the way I'm making those cuts. That way, putting the pressure into the spindle. If I go that way, there's a bigger harmonic because it's doing that. The best this way. Wing of the tool. There. Little point, two little lines on the top. That suggests to me attention to detail. Nobody just sanded and left it flat. Two little lines on the top gives somebody an aesthetic for them to look at. So, that would all be sanded and finished. Take that out. So there we've got the lid there. I'll put that there for a moment. we're going to get the base. And I'm hoping, if it doesn't, that chuck will do it. And close that down. No, I want the jaws to drip and drop into there, so that won't do it. We'll have to use this little chuck. Now I'm doing what I said Michael Hosseluk does, okay? And that's going to be much bigger, and it's just going to sit on the tops. However, I'm just holding this to turn and finish the bottom. I'm not doing heavy cuts with it, or anything like that. Take this off. The reason I like the Vicmark chucks as well is because they're totally enclosed. The one-way chucks are open at the bottom, and you get a lot of dust on those cogs, you know, for the key. Beautifully closed, nice sealed chuck. Down to there. Bring this around to here. I've just seen whose chuck that is. It's Stuart Batty's chuck. He will go apeshit if he knows I'm using his chuck. Oh my God. Oh my God. Right. Just knit that up. So. Now you can all tell him. All email tonight and tell him Jimmy Clewes is using your chuck. All of you email him.
Send him the YouTube link.
Right. That's running dead true, because I cut the joint for the lid and everything else true. I cannot stress how important it is. So, let's see, parting tool and bowl gouge. Take that out, we'll take, do a cut down here. The proportion, see that curve come round, that's a better proportion for the foot. We do not have to have it at such a fast speed now, so I'm going to turn it down to a sedate 2000. Bowl gouge. Blend that in nicely. That's okay. I'm going to do an undercut here. Tool rest the wrong height. That little curve on there comes into a curve, then the rest of the piece is lifted. Always slightly undercut a foot. Never ever leave it flat. If the wood moves and it's flat, it'll walk. If you undercut it and the wood moves, it'll still sit on at least 3 points and be stable. Okay? Everybody, when they look at a turning, if it was a bowl, this is what they do. You'll pass the bowl to them, they'll take it. This is the first thing to do that, and then to do that, right? Give them something to look at. And the other thing is, those 2 lines there match these 2 little lines on the top. So I'm following the design through from top to bottom and from bottom to top. It flows nicely both ways. So, take this out. Right, tighty. Left. Oh, that's there. That's tightening it that way. Right, yeah. Australians. Right, so let's come out to here. So let's just recap from a design point of view. Okay. So we've got that. If that's at eye level, there. We've got that nice sweeping ogee on there. The ogee shape is always an aesthetically pleasing curve to look at, and it's a lovely curve to feel. The ogee on the bottom of a platter is just a gorgeous curve. Then we've got a thickness here. It curves, a little curve here. Yes, there's a lot of bulk in here, but it doesn't matter. That's part of the design. That's what this piece is, okay? So a nice curve up to there, nice hollow in the middle, okay? What I have done with these, on some of these, if I've had a full day to do it in a bit more time, I've put gold leaf in the middle of there. When you take the lid off, whoa, there's an element of surprise in there when you take the lid off. The other thing you can do, play on people's senses. If you're making boxes, get a little bit of mineral oil, clear mineral oil. Go to CVS or Walgreens or somewhere like that and buy some pure essential oils. There's hundreds of different smells. You can get citrus, you can get rose, you can get, drop a couple of drops of that essential oil into your clear mineral oil and finish the inside of your box with that. When you take the lid off, oh, what a lovely smell. That can make people buy something, how it smells, a nice pleasant smell. Oh, how lovely. So, nicely hollowed in the middle. That thickness there on the lid is slightly smaller than that on the base because the proportions are getting smaller. We've got that nice little ogee on the top, which matches the ogee on the bottom. You've got your 2 lines on the top as decorative details, 2 lines on the bottom. Ladies and gentlemen, that is how I would turn an Asian style Oriental box, square box with a square lid. Just before I finish off saying what I'm going to say, does anybody... Does anybody have any questions about anything else? Oh, sorry, I forgot you before. Sorry, mate.
The question I had, when you were talking about, you were making that one cut with a spindle gouge and you got a harmonic sound. What is, could you talk a touch about that?
Yeah, because it's a thin spindle. So we're going to take that. That there is it's thinner there than it is there. And if I make a cut this way, the pressure's going that way and it makes it wobble like that. If I make a cut that way, the pressure's going down the spindle and not that way. And that doesn't tend to, you don't get the harmonic you did when cutting that way. That's all it is. The pressure's going, is that what you meant?
Or it sounded like maybe you were
You
saying
changed tools.
you wanted like a different hole gouge instead of a spindle gouge because you got a harmonic sound.
You were shear cutting with
Oh, right, yes. I picked up the spindle gouge and I was doing a shear cut down there and I got a bit of a screech.
Yeah.
Right, I could have done another thing. I could have lifted the tool rest, okay, because the tool was in that position and it's wanting to do this. I could have lifted the tool rest and had the tool horizontal or slightly trailing and I wouldn't have got that harmonic. The reason I changed to the bigger tool is because of the way the position of the spindle gouge was in that position and how thin it was, I was getting a harmonic. I knew I could get away with it by moving up to the bigger bowl gouge, which has more integrity and less harmonic. It's not going to flex like the smaller one. So that's what I did. I could have moved the tool rest up, but I knew the bowl gouge would do it without the harmonic. So that's the reason why.
Over the years, I've definitely gotten that sound, and it's like, how do you deal with
That's
it?
a warning sign. If you ever hear that high-pitched sound, it's not necessary that the piece is going to explode. It's a harmonic. Although you can hear thickness. You can.
Yeah.
Just before you go through the bottom of a bowl, you hear that high-pitched straight through. You can hear thickness, I'm telling you. So, any other questions? Before I finish off, yes, sir?
Kind of more of a personal thing. Did you finish welding school and how did you get into wood turning?
That's a good question. I left Caterpillar when I was 16 and I went to Manchester University and I did a foundation course, a 1-year foundation course in art and design. Then I did a 3-year Bachelor of Arts honours degree in 3-dimensional design, wood, metal, ceramics and glass. So for the first year, you did all the disciplines. You did woodwork, metalwork, and the metalwork was jewellery, silversmithing, okay? And then ceramics and glass. So I've blown glass, slumped glass, fused glass, I've thrown pots, I've done industrial ceramics, where you're slip casting, and I specialised in wood, designing and making one-off pieces of furniture with silversmithing as a subsidiary subject. I did my dissertation on Japanese tools and architecture. Fabulous. When they work, my God. There was a story I remember in particular. You would have a body, the guy, a craftsman who would make the body of the plane. I'm talking about out in Japan. And you would have a craftsman who would actually make the laminated blade. Okay? And then the woodworking craftsman, the woodworking guy would put the plane and the blade and the plane together. And he would, we would say in England, fettle it. He would fettle it. he would dress it up till it was just right, and razor sharp. And apparently, now remember they used a lot of cedar and softwoods over there, but there was a story in one of the references in one of the books that I read to help me with my dissertation. There was a craftsman, Finnish craftsman. He could put his plane on a piece of cedar, lift the piece of cedar up like that, and as the plane slid down, it would make a shaving as it slid down the road. He could set it up to that degree. Fabulous stuff. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. So yeah, and then after that, after I finished my degree, I went to work for Craft Supplies in England. The same business, no relation, but basically the same business. I got laid off from there because the owner of the business went into partnership with a guy, and they bought a sawmill in Australia, and way ahead. But they were importing Australian bills into England, then send them across to Craft Supplies. Craft Supplies USA used to buy off us in England for trade. And so anyway, the guy he went into business with ripped them off for about £250,000, and he had to get rid of a level of staff, and I was it, okay, to save overnight out of the job. And I found out 2 years later at the International Hardware Show in Cologne, the guy he went into business with ended up getting whacked by the Russian mafia. Right? He was not a nice guy, and he ended up getting whacked. So I did that. I set myself up in business as a tree surgeon, and then Nick Davison from Craft Supplies asked me. I didn't work there for 4 or 5 years. I had a really good business felling trees. I had woodland work and garden work. Okay, so I had a really good business, and he asked me if I'd be interested to go and have a chat with him. So I did, and he had this idea of having a Craft Supplies roadshow. So basically, I would take a van, fill it up with stock, and I would give, he wouldn't charge the club, I'd give demos, free demos, and sell product. So I remember when pens first came out, when the very Craft Supplies in England were the first ones ever to have pens. And I would go and give a demo on a pen, and then sell the guys pen kits. Wow, they're really cool. And sell kits, so they got a free demo. That got me to every club in England, Scotland, Wales, and a few clubs in Ireland. And so what happened after that, the guys weren't interested in the product, they were interested in the demo. They said, look Jimmy, we'll pay you to come and give us a demo. We can get the product mail order. We want you to come and demo. And that was it. It started from there. I got my first opportunity over here with Dale Nish, the grandfather of wood turning over here. I still miss him tremendously. Dale gave me my first chance in Utah, and I've never looked back since then. I am so fortunate to live over here, work over here, and enjoy the standard of living that you guys have. I'm blessed. Seriously, I'm blessed. Absolutely blessed. So that's going to lead me on to my last statement. I am going to thank you guys. Quite often people come up to me at the end of the demo and say, oh Jimmy, thank you for coming up. It's been really nice to see you again, or I really enjoyed your demo. I am going to thank you guys. And the reason I'm thanking you is because, unlike some other wood turners, I am acutely aware that my living is entirely reliant on discretionary spending. I do not take that for granted. I earn a decent living off you guys' spare money. You think about that. You don't have to be here tonight. You don't have to buy tools. You don't have to buy videos. You don't have to join members out on websites or anything like that. I am absolutely grateful to earn my living off other people's spare money. You think about that. And I think I'm the only one that I know of who thanks my audience for that very reason. I do not take that for granted. So, thank you very much indeed. I really appreciate it.